I never planned on playing My Time at Portia. The Epic Games Store gave it away for free, so I got it, but didn't really know what the game was about. I mean, why not? It's free, right? My wife also got it and started playing it. The game has cute but nice graphics and offers what I can only call a relaxing atmosphere. After a few days of having played it, she started nagging me to give the game a chance and perhaps even review it. At first I was skeptical. It's not that I dislike such games, on the contrary, I remember having tons of fun while playing Farm Together. My biggest worry was that these games usually eat up your time and hook you for many hours. After a few days of nagging, I had no choice but to give in and start playing My Time at Portia. And here I am 120 hours later, ready to tell you what I think of it. First and foremost, Ultrawide. I'll keep it short. Ultrawide works like a charm here. Both 32:9 and 21:9 run great and look fantastic. All you have to do is select the correct resolution. So what is this game about and why did I end up playing it for such a long time? I did expect that My Time at Portia is similar to Farm Together, and that was right to some extent. The point here is to gather resources and build things as you progress with the story. Farming is one aspect of it, but not really the main one. But let's start from the beginning since we're at it. You've received a letter from your estranged father who has left you his workshop in Portia. So our character gets on a ship and goes to claim his new property. The game will allow you to customize your character a bit and choose their sex. One of the first positive things here is the fact that our protagonist is voiced and a lot of the conversations are actually voice acted as well, which is really nice. In these games you usually meet a lot of text, but here this is somewhat the case, but it's not that much as usual. The female character definitely has a much better voice actress, while the male one is bad in my opinion. It's not the actual voice acting that I dislike, but the problem that I have is with the voice itself. It really didn't appeal to me, but take a listen and tell me what you think of it.
It's like a cool breeze in the summer.
Yeah, this tastes really sweet.
I might not grow the biggest melon, but when it comes to sweetness, I've got this down pat.
Regardless, I appreciate the fact that our character is not some mute puppet. Even a voice that doesn't appeal to me is better than no voice at all. As soon as our character arrives, he finds out that the house is in poor condition. This means that your first task will be to fix it up a bit. In order to do that, we have to collect some basic materials and use those to craft both a pickaxe and an axe and then get to work. You are told that your father was a famous builder and it's more or less expected of you to be one as well. After all, you are taking over the workshop for now. This is actually the main aspect of the game. You will be doing commissions for the people within the city of Portia as well as doing some other main and side quests. The beauty of this game is within its gameplay loop. If you have seen my review of Farm Together, you will remember that the main goal of the game was farming and raising livestock, which you could then sell for profit and expand your farm. There were the occasional events, but that's all. They were very far between and they weren't really original. My Time at Portia offers so much more to do. You still have to collect money and resources in order to upgrade your house, your workshop, and of course the actual tools you use. But beyond that, you also have to develop relationships with the town's many residents, partake in different side activities such as events, and even what I can only describe as dungeons in which you fight monsters. So yes, there is some minor combat in this game, but it's relatively simple and can pretty much be avoided if one does not want to deal with it. On the other hand, if you do want to deal with it, there are some seriously difficult dungeons that give you some really good rewards and can make you very overpowered if you get the right items. We can even increase our level and unlock talents, some of which are combat related. Of course, there are lots of gathering talents and even social ones, but if you want to be a really dangerous fighter, this is one of the ways to do it. What I find most impressive is how the game eases you in. At first, it creates the appearance as though there aren't that many things to do, and it will take a lot of time for you to progress through the story as far as it is needed before you actually start unlocking new territories and even more activities and more complicated quests. At some point, however, the game will be so dense with things to do that every single one of your in-game days will revolve around you juggling with the many fun aspects of the gameplay, trying to both achieve as much as possible at the same time and also reach that personal goal which you have created for yourself. Just as an example, I wanted to marry a specific NPC and have children with her. We'll get to that. All of this is possible. One of the most fun aspects of the game is the social system in place. Your interaction with the NPCs will cause them to like or dislike you more and more over time. You can talk to them, give them gifts, go on dates with them, and even compete with them on different levels. For example, during the mini events where everyone in the city partakes. It's actually quite a lot of fun. Another great example are the 2 other builders in town who are your competition. One of them is especially eager about proving himself at your expense. This is also where I have to talk about the behavior of the NPCs. The game feels alive, especially within the town of Portia. Each NPC has different things they do based on the time of the day, as well as which day of the week it is, etc. They will exercise in the morning, gather up and socialize in the bar at night, and do many other things such as just go out in the world and pick herbs. I know that this is not groundbreaking, but what sets my time at Portia apart from most other games with similar mechanics is how organic it all feels. There is simply a lot going on and there are so many NPCs doing all these things. It has a huge impact on how you feel about the game and how it feels living. I mentioned the other builder who is competing with you. He will wait in front of the commerce building every day at 8 in the morning so that he can be the first to enter it and grab the best commission contracts. You can go there as well, and if you take too long to choose, you might actually literally see how that NPC takes one of the contracts right under your nose and that contract disappears. You can't actually have it anymore. It's not just a random location for him to be at, like a script where he just goes and pretends to do something. No, he actually somehow decides which contract is best for him and then takes that one and that contract disappears. In addition to that, the NPCs have relationships between each other as well. They have close family members and friends, which means that if you interact with them, you will also affect your social status with the NPCs close to them. And those interactions are tailored to each NPC's character. For example, most NPCs in Portia enjoy a healthy sparring duel. You can challenge each of them up to 3 times a day. Some like to win, some are impressed if you beat them, and others will enjoy a fight or two but start getting annoyed if you push for a third one. It's very interesting and very unique to each of them. Your main incentive to become friends with them are the perks it brings. Almost all NPCs give nice perks when you become friends with them, and there are different levels of friendship you can achieve for even better perks. This can go as far as developing romantic relationships and even marrying an NPC. The game even has a jealousy system in place. If you start going on dates with too many NPCs, there's always a chance that one of your girlfriends or respectively boyfriends could catch you in the act and then drama ensues. Marriage is the ultimate union, but it's not the final relationship step. You can have up to 2 children as well, but there are strict conditions that you need to fulfill. You need to have a specific size of house, you need to have certain items in your house such as a baby crib, etc, etc. It isn't that easy, you can't do it quickly. So that's why it was also my target, because that's really endgame stuff. But as you can see, the social system is deep and surprisingly fun. Another fun aspect of the game are the mines. You will literally be digging through them and claiming different raw materials as you make your tunnel, and even find lots of old relics which grant you various stat boosts if you use them to decorate your house. This is the first thing I want to criticize, however. The problem is that such a system incentivizes the player to place anything they can in the house, since it gives a passive stat boost. This means that your house will look like a gypsy tent, at first at least, due to all the messy clutter within it, which you will have placed in there for the stats. Especially early on when you have very little space, the place will look pretty bad. In addition to that, the game's engine does not allow you to stack items, meaning that if you have a small lamp, you have to place it on the ground. There are options to put items on furniture, but they designed it in such a way that the furniture will actually act as some sort of a box in which you place another item. This will still make it look like my example with the lamp, that the lamp is actually on the table, but in fact the lamp is now considered within the table and no longer inside your house, as strange as that might be. So the stat boost, which you would expect from that lamp, is not effective. You basically placed it for its looks, but you gain nothing from it. So as a player, you're facing the choice between looks and stat boosts, which is not an easy choice, especially not early on. Here's where things get a bit more confusing. You see, the game does not explain sufficiently that the house only allows for stat boosts up to a certain level. For example, your level 1 house will allow you to gain up to 50 stamina from items. However, placing more items within that house, even if they are supposed to give you stamina, will still be counted, and at some point you will see, because there is a special place where you can check that your house now gives you 60 out of 50 stamina boost. This actually means that only 50 is active, but if you were to upgrade your house and therefore you can have a larger capacity, the remaining 10 points would be considered. However, I understood it in a wrong way. At first, I didn't test it and I assumed that it means that 60 is actually what is applied to me, although it's supposed to be 50. Something like that, because it literally says 60 out of 50. So that's what it means to me. Perhaps most players will understand this intuitively, but I know neither me nor my wife did. So I feel like a better explanation would have been in order here. We found that out quite late in the game when I actually started removing and messing with the stuff and noticing that my stats don't really change. And then it became clear. I did mention how there are many different things you can do in this game. Naturally, some of them will be much more useful than others. For example, farming activities, especially those revolving around livestock, are almost unnecessary. I never raised any animals, but my wife did. I personally focused on fishing for the most part. What feels bad here is that most things are not lucrative enough for you to be worth doing. My fishing made me tons of money. Pretty much nothing else in the game seems to even come close to it when it comes to making money. Now that is bad because I didn't specifically know that this would be the case, but my wife tried many different things, almost everything, and she never was capable of making much money, although she invested a lot of time and energy into them. And money is really important in this game. If you want some high-grade materials, you can either try getting them randomly in the mine, go to a dungeon, dive in there, kill lots of mobs, or you could commission the local police force to hunt mobs for you and bring you items that you need. This is a really convenient option and it's a very expensive one. So money is a big factor here. It can pretty much save you from having to grind some things. The good news is the game doesn't have any cash shops in it. There's no way for you to pay real money in order to give yourself any advantage. This was twice as surprising and positive to me when I realized that the game comes from a Chinese developer. So you can be sure that it's designed to hook you but not waste your time unnecessarily because they gain nothing from it. It's already a very vast game, and I can vouch that it never felt like it was doing that. As I play games, I usually write down notes about the things I like and dislike so that I don't forget something. In this case, I had to scratch out a lot of the negative entries because my time at Portia actually has many inconveniences which were placed intentionally and can be fixed with late game upgrades. It's actually a smart way to do it because just as you are starting to get really good at making lots of money and you have all the crafting down and you got lots of materials, so pretty much any commission you get you can do on the fly without having to go and hunt for materials, the game might become mundane and it might feel like there's nothing else to have from it. And then suddenly the game gives you one of those rewards which give you a huge quality of life boost, and you realize that it's been secretly there waiting for you and you've been wanting it all this time. So even when you feel like you're pretty much maxed out, you realize no, you were not, and there is something that's a lot better that you kind of always wanted but thought was never going to be given to you. But actually it was always there waiting for the right moment, and later on in the game truly is the right moment because by that time you really want that thing. I would give you some of the late game examples, but I don't want to give it as a spoiler because it's kind of a cool thing and I'll let you have this happen to you so that you can enjoy it to its fullest as a surprise. I kind of skipped over something, but it's time to address it now. It's the stamina system in the game. Every action, from the individual hit with your axe to the swings of your sword and even the simple picking of a flower, costs stamina. Once you run out of it, you can either get some food which replenishes some of it or go to sleep. No matter what you choose, your character still needs to sleep. At 3 AM in the evening, our protagonist will pass out if not in a bed already. Luckily, this has no negative effects. You just wake up next morning in bed. As a matter of fact, the game is generally very forgiving. You don't lose anything for dying either. You just appear in a safe space. The one thing that I found a bit annoying was that the game only offers you an autosave feature while you sleep. Well, in theory, you could also go to sleep at any time and thus force a save, but the problem with that is that our character can only wake up on the morning of the next day. So sleeping costs you precious time you could have used for various activities. And speaking of activities, I did mention the many events which the game has. They offer fun minigames and nice rewards, most of which cosmetic. Remember when I mentioned that the game is really good at offering rewarding upgrades which improve the player's overall experience? I can mention a few of the early ones since those don't really count as spoilers because they are very early on. At one point you will unlock the game's fast travel system, which makes it so much easier to traverse the world. At another you will get the option to rent or buy horses. You can even catch and tame llamas llamas. Some of these mounts can be trained and so their stats will improve. This is also where parts of the game again show weakness. There are certain aspects of interaction with these animals that seem to do nothing. For example, the llamas have a special stat which is called loyalty, and that stat increases as you pet them every day and give them attention. It seems to do nothing though. Not only that, but you are supposed to feed them daily as well. They have a hunger stat. Not feeding them seems to do nothing as well. Apparently, from what I've read, they had the idea of making some punishments for you if you don't pay attention to these stats, but then they realized they wouldn't fit with the game to punish the player, so they decided to leave these stats in, but they do nothing. I guess they could have made some kind of a compromise, or rather, I don't think punishment is a good motivator. They could have just given you some kind of an advantage. Let's imagine if your mount is super happy and well fed, it'll always be a bit faster for a few days until it gets hungry again. Stuff like that. That would have been a better approach. Now let's talk about the game's weaker points. Remember when I mentioned that you can unlock additional territories? Those will provide a few new resource types and enemies to fight, but most of them will feel a bit empty and there won't be much incentive for the player to visit them once you've passed the few specific quests that demand of you to go there. The game has so much content that this can easily be forgiven though. It just isn't distributed equally. The further you progress, the less of a reason there will be for you to really explore these new territories. You can find the occasional hidden chest, but those almost always have something mundane in them. So exploration is really not well rewarded. In addition to that, the game has many items you can gather. This would be no problem, it's just that most of the time it's impossible to tell which ones are trash and which ones potentially a material that you can use later. In the end, you will probably hoard most of them in chests so that in case you need them, you might have them and wouldn't have to go and gather them again. And in my case, as it turned out, a few of these items really were needed later on, but most of them were not. I wish the item descriptions were a bit clearer as to the purpose of them. For example, I found some acorns and was not sure if I might need them for later or if I should sell them because they're just trash to be sold. I mean, it could be that you need the nuts inside for cooking or the whole acorn as some kind of a material. Trust me, there are a lot of things like that which seem useless but then actually turned out to be useful. My main complaint is that some items have descriptions which state that they would fetch a good price when sold, which is a clear indicator that they should be sold. Those are the exception, however. Most of them just describe the item without its purpose. It will just say stuff like, this is an acorn. That will be it. Another issue I had was the fact that you gain some crafting blueprints for items which are exclusive to a specific story quest. You will never need them again at any other point. My issue with them is that they still appear in the same place as all of your other blueprints and clutter your crafting interface. There should have been a separate tab for quest related blueprints. And here's another issue I want to address. Various activities will give you medals and badges for completing them. Playing darts, for example. Those badges can be exchanged for items at a later point once you have enough of them. This will take some time though, so you will store the badges in one of your many boxes. My problem is that once you have decided that you want to exchange them, you need to go through your boxes and find where you put them, and then you have to bring them with you to the place where you will exchange them. In my opinion, badges and medals should be treated in the same way as the character's money is treated. It has no physical appearance, it takes no space in your inventory, it's just a number and you can spend it anywhere without having to specifically store it in the times between spending and earning or having to fill up your inventory in any way with it. As you can see, my complaints are mostly nitpicky. A game with so much content will have some rough edges and that's to be expected. The biggest issue I can think of was that it crashed once for me and a few times for my wife. A crash means that your day is not saved, so you will have to replay the whole day again. That's not much when you think about it, but can be really annoying. In my case, it only happened once. My wife, however, was also playing the game on a laptop, which is on the weaker side, while she was traveling. It seems that the reason why she crashed a lot more on the laptop was because this laptop is not a high-end PC, it's weak, she had to play the game completely on low settings, and even then her frame rate wasn't optimal. But to be honest, that doesn't seem like a good excuse for it having crashed as much as it did for her. It probably crashed 7-8 times for her in total, which can be very frustrating. In my case, it only happened once in 120 hours. But I'm just saying this as a disclaimer for people with potato PCs who want to play this. You can play it. If you set everything on low, it will run, but you risk that it might crash more often. So ultimately the question here is, should you play My Time at Portia? Well, the question that you have to also ask yourself is, do you have lots of free time on your hands? Because this game is addictive like a drug. You will not notice how the day passed while you play it. The gameplay loop is so well designed, the variety, the way you are constantly rewarded little by little. It all works so well, too well perhaps. So don't play this unless you have incredible discipline or lots of free time. And prepare a list of excuses as to why you can't join your friends for some actual social activities, regardless if those are in another game or in the real world, because they will start getting pissed after a few rejected offers. But yeah, if you have the time, you should definitely try this one. It's really good. The nicest part is how after the story ends, the game shows you an ending in which it informs you of your achievements in Portia. It talks about how many friends you've made and other similar stuff. It's kind of nice to see all those stats lined up. After the ending plays out, you can still continue playing your game and try to improve your romantic status with someone and thus unlock some new side quests, etc. There's a lot of stuff that you will not be able to do at first, so it's worth playing on if you want to. So yeah, My Time at Portia is a really good game, and I'm now looking forward to its sequel. This review has been longer than expected, and you can be sure that there is a lot I didn't tell you because I didn't want to spoil anything here. Due to this, I will end it by just thanking you for having watched it to the end. So I hope to see you on the next one. Until then, have a great day. This has been your friend Nino signing off, and yeah, leave me a comment or something.